They called me the family failure, but while they laughed, I built a $1 billion empire in silence. Now they're about to find out who I really am. The crystal chandeliers of the Gilded Oak cast soft, elegant shadows across white linen tablecloths, the kind that whispered wealth and exclusivity in the quietest of tones. Polished silverware gleamed. Glasses sparkled like they knew secrets. I adjusted the sleeves of my plain black blazer. It was off the rack, slightly worn, but chosen with precision. Let them believe I couldn't afford better. That illusion had served me well. At the center of the room, my sister Abigail glowed like royalty. Her Chanel suit hugged her figure just right, every strand of her chestnut hair curled into effortless perfection. She laughed easily, confidently, her manicured fingers brushing the arm of a powerful-looking man in tailored navy. That was Abigail Hart, my older sister, the golden girl, a self-made woman. If you ignored the part where she'd stepped onto our father's shoulders to get there. She sat surrounded by her elite clients looking like a CEO, acting like a queen, and always talking about me. From a distance, I could hear her laugh. That performative, silvery giggle. Oh, my poor sister Sienna, she was probably saying, still living off her savings. Couldn't handle the pressure in finance. But they didn't know those savings were worth $4.2 billion as of this morning's market open. And Sienna, darling... Abigail's voice rang out as I approached the table. It carried that cruel mixture of forced affection and thinly veiled mockery. So glad you could join us. She smiled like I was a charity case she'd invited out of pity. Her gaze flicked to my blazer with theatrical disapproval. You really should have said it was at the Gilded Oak. You could have borrowed something more appropriate. I took my seat, the one furthest from her VIPs, of course. I glanced around. This wasn't the first time I'd dined at the Gilded Oak. Just the first time I'd let my family see me here. The blazer's comfortable, I said casually, folding my napkin across my lap. Abigail blinked, baffled by the concept of comfort over brand names. This is William Carter, she said next, gesturing toward the salt and pepper man beside her. He's considering moving his tech portfolio to our firm. She stressed the word, our staking her claim to power. William, this is my sister Sienna. She used to work in finance too before. She trailed off dramatically before I decided the corporate hamster wheel wasn't for me. I finished smoothly accepting the wine list from the hovering sommelier. Abigail's lips thinned. She'd hoped I'd let her finish that story about my burnout, the breakdown she'd invented, and whispered to every socialite she knew. And William smiled politely. Abigail said, You were between opportunities. That must be difficult in this market. I looked up at the sommelier. The Chateau Lafite Rothschild, 1982, please. The entire table went quiet. Abigail's head snapped toward me, eyes narrowing in alarm. That's over $8,000 a bottle, she hissed. You can't afford that. I'll put it on my usual account, I said, not looking at her. Michael, correct? Of course, Miss Hart. The sommelier said with a slight bow. Your regular table is also available if you'd prefer it? No, thank you. I'll sit here tonight. Abigail stared at me like I'd just spoken in tongues. Michael, Miss Hart, regular table. She didn't know. She dined here for years but never once noticed my name in the reservation books under a private account. Because why would she? Sienna. She leaned in her voice a sharp whisper. Seriously, this is humiliating. Just let me pay. Actually, William interrupted, peering at me with renewed interest. Did you say Hart, Sienna Hart? Abigail's laugh was tight. Yes, that's her name, but she's not. Apex Ventures, William cut in. His voice tinged with astonishment. The table went still. Forks paused. Glasses froze midair. William turned fully toward me now. The same Sienna Hart who just acquired Tech Trend Solutions. I offered a small smile. Their quote was undervalued. Their AI division alone was worth more than twice the market cap. That was a $3 billion acquisition, William said slowly. In cash, Abigail looked like she'd been slapped. Her flawless complexion turned bone white. There must be some mistake, she stammered. She works from her apartment, but she doesn't even. She runs one of the most successful private equity firms in the country. William said, eyes never leaving me. I can't believe I didn't recognize you sooner. Your dismantling of Sterling Enterprises last year was masterful. I raised my glass, remembering how Abigail had called me unemployed during that deal while I secretly tore her client's empire apart. You're not, she started. Between opportunities, I offered with a polite shrug. No, I'm exactly where I planned to be. The rest of dinner unfolded like a live-wire opera. Every lie Abigail had spun unraveled at the seams. Every half-truth she'd told about me publicly detonated in front of her clients. I turned to William again. By the way, I've been analyzing Carter Technologies. Your quantum computing patents are fascinating. We're not for sale, he said automatically. Everything's for sale, I replied. At the right price. Michael returned with the wine. I took a sip, savoring it. Oh, and Abigail, don't worry about the bill. I own this restaurant. Bought it last year. Her eyes darted between the staff, the clients, and me. Her voice cracked. Why didn't you tell me you never asked? That night, as I left the Gilded Oak and stepped into my car, my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Abigail just called in tears. What did you do? I typed back. Nothing much. Just showed her that sometimes the best success stories are written in silence. The next morning, the chaos began before sunrise. My phone didn't stop buzzing. Texts, missed calls, emails. Family members who hadn't spoken to me in years were suddenly scrambling to reconnect. In reality, I was seated in my real office, the top floor of the Apex Ventures building downtown. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the city's skyline. I'd spent 5 years quietly conquering. Your sister's been in the lobby for an hour, said Emma, my assistant. She's tried 3 different names to get past security. I glanced at the security feed. Abigail looked cracked. Wrinkled suit, smudged mascara desperation leaking from every pore. Your mother's called 6 times, Emma added. Your cousin Emily has already updated her LinkedIn to say she's closely related to Apex Ventures CEO. I laughed once bitterly. Then Emma said something unexpected. Your brother James is here with your father. Send them up. They entered the office like tourists walking into a cathedral. Dad's eyes swept over the award-lined walls, the modern artwork, the framed Forbes cover with my face on it. Quite an office, he said. Finally better than the sad little apartment you said I should be embarrassed to work from. I replied calmly. Sienna James started. We need to talk about Abigail. Of course not about me. Not to apologize. This wasn't an olive branch. It was damage control. She's ruined. James continued. The Lincoln Building was her biggest portfolio. Without it, she'll have to actually earn her success. I said flatly. You could have warned us. Dad burst out, letting us think. Exactly what you wanted to think. I interrupted. When did any of you ask about my work? About my goals? My choices? They didn't respond. I turned to the window where the Lincoln Building stood tall. You all believed I'd had a breakdown, but I saw something no one else saw. Tech companies bleeding value, begging to be rebuilt. Dad looked pale. I used my trust fund as seed money, lived modestly, worked in silence. And now I handed him a folder. Hart Consulting his company mine now. What he choked out. As of this morning, I said I own 51%. Apex Enterprises was my holding company. You never thought to look behind the buyer. James flipped through the document speechless. I'm calling a board meeting, I said. Tomorrow to announce the transition. I expect you'll prepare your retirement statement. You can't do this. Dad gasped. I already have. 8:55 a.m. Hart Consulting executive boardroom, dark mahogany walls, brass-handled doors, and a row of 10 leather chairs. The same intimidating decor my father once called the arena. When I was 12, he'd let me sit in a corner while he eviscerated underperforming VPs. Today, I sat at the head of the table in his chair legs, crossed calm as the sea before a storm. One by one, directors filed in, clutching the glossy press packet my team had couriered before dawn. Their expressions ran a gradient from confusion to naked fear. At 8:57, the double doors burst open. Richard Hart, my father, strode in with Abigail half a step behind. They wore matching navy power suits, but neither had slept. Richard's tie was knotted too tight. Abigail's mascara had the faint shimmer of tears long ago wiped away. Dad planted his palms on the table. "This meeting is irregular and unauthorized." I gave him the faintest smile. "Read your bylaws, Dad. Any 51% owner can call an emergency session. You helped draft that clause." A hum rippled down the table. Everyone understood what that meant. Control the paper trail. I nodded to Sophia Lynn, Apex Ventures chief counsel. She glided around the room, passing stapled bundles, notarized stock transfer forms, voting agreements, proxy letters, 20 months of stealth purchases laid bare. Abigail grabbed her copy, flipping pages with jittery fingers. "These are fake," she insisted, voice cracking. "Like my breakdown was fake?" I asked, unblinking. "Or my alleged bankruptcy?" Her knuckles whitened around the packet. Dad pointed a trembling finger. "You've been plotting against your own family." "Planning," I corrected. "Plotting is what you called it when I was 9 and suggested moving our philanthropy fund into tech ETFs. Turns out I was right back then, too." A chuckle escaped one of the outside directors. Mr. Ellis, the audit committee chair, quickly stifled when Dad shot him a death glare. "Enter the clients." Before Richard could launch his next objection, the doors opened again. William Carter walked in, trailed by 3 people wearing visitor badges. The CEOs of Sterling Enterprises Tech Trend Solutions and Nebula Robotics firms my father's company had once courted and lost. Abigail's face drained of color. Those were her white whale accounts. William took the seat at my right. "Morning, Sienna. The patent portfolio figures you sent are even stronger than I expected." I inclined my head, glad to hear it. "We'll finalize after this vote." He folded his hands. "Full disclosure to the board. Carter Technologies intends to move its entire asset management mandate, $19 billion under Apex Ventures, on the condition that Miss Hart assumes effective control. $19 billion. A hush so deep I could hear the clock tick. The numbers that kill. I clicked the remote. The wall screen sprang to life with bar charts. No fancy colors, just brutal grayscale. Client churn up 40%. R&D spend flat for 7 consecutive quarters. Revenue per advisor down 23% year over year. These slides use your own data. I told the board. Richard's strategy has been harvest not grow, milking legacy clients while ignoring market shifts. That model ends today. Mr. Klein, the operations director, cleared his throat. "Richard, I've raised these issues for a year. You tabled every motion." Dad glared. Klein stared back, unexpectedly emboldened. Phase 1. I continued spins the underperforming insurance division into a separate entity, merges our fintech incubator with Tech Trends AI lab, and creates a dedicated quantum group around Carter Technologies patents. Target EBITDA, lift 17% in 18 months. I advanced to the next slide. Projected share price stair-stepping upward in stark black ink. Chairs shuffled, pens tapped. The board could smell profit. The vote. Sophia placed a silver digital tablet before each director. Touch yes or no to ratify the new leadership structure. Anonymous but instant. Dad pounded the table. "You are voting on the destruction of a legacy." "Correction," I said. "They're voting on its future." 15 seconds of nerve-shredding silence. Tablets pinged. Result 8. Yes, 2 no. Control transferred. Just like that. Richard Hart's shoulders sagged. The fight bleeding out of him as reality took hold. Almost on cue, the doors opened a third time. Margaret Hart, my mother, rushed in, heels clacking, and Patricia right behind, clutching her pearls like a lifeline. "Sienna, stop this." Mom pleaded. "We are a family." "Were we family?" I asked softly. "When you let Abigail rumor mill my mental health because it made a good dinner joke." Were we family when you uninvited me from Dad's 60th because my sad career embarrassed the guests? Mom faltered. Tears welled. But for once I didn't soften. I'd earned this armor. Abigail pushed past her. You think money makes you powerful? No, I said competence makes me powerful. Money just pays the electricity bill. Security appeared. Richard looked at me, equal parts fury and something like awe. I built this company from nothing. And then you stopped building, I said. That's why you're leaving with a full pension instead of a pink slip. Take the graceful exit, Dad. He opened his mouth, closed it again. The Titan deflated. As the ousted trio were escorted down the hall, I turned to the remaining directors. Gentlemen, ladies, meet your new strategic partners. William and the other CEOs distributed thick binders titled Integration Roadmap. We spent the next 3 hours in real-work operational synergy governance. Reform ESG commitments, global tax structures. By noon, we'd scheduled a joint press conference and greenlit a $150 million innovation fund. City lights glittered like scattered diamonds beneath the floor-to-ceiling glass. I removed the plain black blazer and hung it on a mahogany stand. Beneath it, a precisely tailored cream silk blouse. Quiet luxury no one had noticed under the cheap jacket. Symbolic. Emma stepped in, tablet in hand. Press reaction is 95% positive. Clients are flooding onboarding. One more thing, James sent flowers with a card. Always believed in you. Sorry I stayed silent. I smiled, surprisingly moved. Send him an access badge for Monday. Let's find out what my little brother can really do. And your mother, Emma, asked gently. She's called 9 times. Hold the calls through the weekend. I stared out at the skyline. We'll have boundaries now. She nodded and left. Silence returned. My oldest ally. I opened the family group chat. 53 unread messages of panic apologies, recriminations. I typed. Next Sunday dinner will be in Apex Ventures boardroom. Dress appropriately. We have a new hierarchy to discuss. Send. They once said I was the family failure, the sister who cracked under pressure, the daughter who wasted her education. But while they were busy crafting a bedtime story about my downfall, I wrote a business plan in the dark and executed it with surgical precision. Revenge, perhaps, but mostly proof. Proof that the smallest voice in the room can learn to roar, and that the world's sharpest blade is the one no one sees until it's already at their throat. I poured the last inch of Chateau Lafite into a crystal tumbler, raised it to the window, and watched the city I now commanded. They underestimated me. They won't do it again. Sienna Hart's journey in the story reveals a profound lesson about the power of resilience, strategic silence, and self-belief in the face of underestimation. Mocked as the family failure, Sienna endured her sister Abigail's public ridicule and her family's dismissive assumptions, who painted her as a burnout unable to handle the pressures of finance. Instead of succumbing to their narrative, she quietly built a billion-dollar empire, leveraging her intellect and foresight to seize opportunities others overlooked. Her lesson is clear. True strength lies not in loud proclamations or seeking external validation, but in disciplined, purposeful action executed with precision. By maintaining a low profile, wearing an unassuming blazer, living modestly, and keeping her successes private, she turned her family's misjudgments into a strategic advantage, striking when the moment was right. Sienna's triumph at the Gilded Oak and Apex Ventures boardroom underscores that competence, not wealth or status, defines power. Her acquisition of her father's company and the dismantling of Abigail's fabricated narrative were not just acts of revenge, but proof that underestimated voices can reshape legacies. The story teaches that enduring doubt, even from those closest, can fuel a relentless drive to succeed, provided one trusts their vision and works tirelessly in the shadows. Sienna's choice to set boundaries with her family and focus on building a future rather than dwelling on past slights emphasizes the importance of self-determination. Her rise from a supposed failure to a commanding leader illustrates that the sharpest victories are often silent, calculated, and delivered with undeniable proof of one's worth, ensuring that those who once doubted will never do so again.